My name is Josephine, and I'm a rising sophomore at the Ramaz Upper School. This is my project. It's the RC robot tank, and it's controlled by this PS2 controller, so I'll show you how it works. There are a lot of different functions on the PS2 controller. This controls the left motor, this controls the right motor, this is the brake, and these are speed controls. So if I do this, and then I can stop it. So it can do lots of things. It can also turn, make it faster. Yeah, get stuck on the tablecloth. But so there were a lot of steps in making this tank. So first I assembled the chassis with the chassis and the wheels and the motor. And that was a challenge because the instructions to assemble it were in Japanese. So I couldn't understand them. So I found some YouTube videos that helped me assemble the chassis. And after that, I made a circuit with my Arduino and my motor shield and my battery and the motor. So at that point, I was able to make the tank go, but it wasn't connected to the PS2 controller. So I just used the code from my computer. And that was my first milestone. And after that, I connected this wireless receiver for the PS2 controller. So that allowed the PS2 controller to interact with my Arduino. So that was the hardest step because I had a lot of different components and there were a lot of challenges with that because at first the wiring wasn't right, so I had to fix the wiring, and even after I finished the wiring it should have connected, but the PS2 controller still hadn't connected to the Arduino. So I realized that there were issues with the PS2 controller itself and I had to fix that. And after that, then it was working sometimes, but not always, and I realized that another student was also using a PS2 controller, so there was like interference between our two controllers, and my controller was connecting to his receiver and his Arduino, so we had to coordinate when we turned ours on and off to make sure that they connected to the right ones. There was also an issue when I had the wires from the PS2 receiver connected to the motor shield in pins that the motor shield uses for moving the motor, and I didn't realize, so in the code I was calling the same pins for movement and to connect it to the PS2 controller, so really it wasn't doing either one all the way. So once I switched the pins, then that worked, and it finally drove, which was great. So once I finished that, that was my basic project, and then I added a modification, which is this 3D printed case to hold my battery on the chassis. So that was helpful because the chassis is pretty small and there's a lot of stuff that I needed on it. So to fit the battery, the best way is to have it vertically and it sits in the case very well. But that was also a challenge because I've never 3D printed anything before and I had to do it in a pretty short time frame since I was almost done. But once I finished that, this is my finished project. And I learned a lot of skills with this. I learned how to use a motor shield and new code with Arduino to run the motors, and how to do all this wiring to make circuits, and 3D printing. So it was a really great experience and I learned a lot of new things.